if we understand aging from the perspective of health, and if
Mm-hmm.
we look at it as the start of decline, that's the inflection point for all the disease that comes later on. And if we tackle aging before it turns into disease, then we're doing preventive health. So if you're thinking about health, if you think about your future health, then you should be thinking about aging.
Mm-hmm.
And that's when it connects, and also the science is super exciting. But the first thing we need to connect our aging, not to visual, not to aesthetics, but to what's happening internally and our health longevity in a way. We can control our aging process, so it's something we all care about it, but it's something moldable now.
Mm-hmm.
And that's our future health, so we can control it now. The problem with medicine as it is now, if you go to
Mm-hmm.
your doctor, they can't help you until you are severely ill.
Mm-hmm.
We thought that athletes would be much younger. We even did a big study of people going to the gym, and actually over-exercise can create chronic inflammation and damage
Mm-hmm.
your health, which is not commonly known.
Mm-hmm.
Exercise at the right amount with the right type of nutritional support is good, because it's like a natural shock to our body to fix
Mm-hmm.
ourselves. So to build new tissue, new muscle, which is younger, which is healthier, that's great. But if we do too much of this damage and we don't allow it to repair, or we don't feed the repair, then actually
Mm-hmm.
we do the reverse and we create inflammation. So we were
Mm-hmm.
very shocked. We had a study of women's bodybuilding
Mm-hmm.
where all of them became much, much older and pro-inflammatory.
Mm-hmm.
And they lost bone density. All of
Wow.
their, we looked at gene expression, so all of the whole immune system gets dysregulated,
Mm-hmm.
and they lose their cycle. So if you're looking at
Mm-hmm.
aging, this is menopause, and it's
Mm-hmm.
osteopenia, and this is young women over-exercising. So
Wow.
you can over-exercise, and hence a lot of athletes actually do damage, and they have a very, much shorter careers than you would in different industries. So you
Mm-hmm.
can, there is a cost to overdoing. And if you're an athlete, you're very well paid to wreck your body. It's great, you get the payback
That's
for it.
one way
But
of seeing it, I guess, right?
if you're an
Mm-hmm.
average person who just wants to be healthy, who's spending 2 hours in the gym and not properly feeding that repair, or accumulating the damage, then you have no benefit. You maybe visual, but it's actually not good for your health. So being on a caloric restriction diet on its own is beneficial.
Mm-hmm.
Exercising on its own, we did sprint training, was beneficial. A group of young men in this case got younger. But if you combine the two things, so if you restrict your calories and exercise at the same time, then you
Mm-hmm.
do the reverse. You create chronic
Mm-hmm.
inflammation, and your biological age goes up. We always saw that men and women age differently. So men were very straightforward. They just accumulate the bad in a straight line going up and lose the good straight line going down. And then
Uh-huh.
women had a curve. So in a way, they were protected against chronic inflammation in
Mm-hmm.
reproductive age. And
Mm-hmm.
then as they get closer to menopause, they would have this accelerated biological aging. Now,
Mm-hmm.
we didn't know if this was menopause. We just saw that it happened started from the age of 45,
Mm-hmm.
between 55, and then they would stabilize. So we assumed that this is driven by menopause.
Mm-hmm.
Recently, we had a study where we had the menopause data, so we can see actually what's going on. And the reason for starting this study was actually our commercial customers, because we went to the market maybe about 2 years ago now,
Mm-hmm.
and we kept getting clients because our biggest cohort is 40s to 60s. So we
Mm-hmm.
kept getting these super healthy women who were not doing anything um, wrong, and they had very accelerated aging. And we would ask them, "Are you in menopause?" And they would say, "No, I still have my cycle. It's regular." So
Mm-hmm.
we were
You were like, what's going
confused,
on?
and then
Yeah.
we learned that you don't actually diagnose menopause.
Mm-hmm.
You diagnose it retrospectively. So you wait all the years in perimenopause, which can be up to a decade, and
Mm-hmm.
then you have to wait a year, not having a cycle for a whole year, plus 1 day, and then officially you're allowed to be in menopause. All of the
1 year
period
and one
before.
day. That's hilarious.
Yes. So,
Doesn't sound very modern way of testing. Yeah.
and that's a problem because a lot of the symptoms of perimenopause, which can last up to a decade,
Mm-hmm.
there's up to 40 different symptoms, and there are many different things. So from anxiety, depression, joint pains, heart palpitations, often the women are misdiagnosed. So you would have all
Mm-hmm.
these symptoms over decades, and you get a diagnosis with fibromyalgia or depression, most of them are put on antidepressant, and you don't
Wow.
know that this is related to your hormones because you can't
Mm-hmm.
run a simple test. So
Mm-hmm.
now a big part of our research is seeing if we can use this as a diagnostic for perimenopause, because
Mm-hmm.
we see this in every woman, and then the response to therapy. So can we personalize and optimize the therapy so you get the long-term health benefits, and then also understanding the mechanism, not just that menopause is an aging event that we all go through, but it's a health risk. It's a hormone
Mm-hmm.
deficiency. It impacts all of our systems, and if we address it as a health risk, then we are looking at it from the long-term health perspective, not just the symptoms as well. We don't recommend testing in pregnancy or even a
Mm-hmm.
couple years post-pregnancy, because in pregnancy, because of the high hormone levels, you'll have a better score. So you'll not,
Mm-hmm.
estrogen is an anti-inflammatory, you will naturally have a much younger result, for,
Mm-hmm.
particularly in the third trimester. And then post-pregnancy, it all goes in the opposite direction for the majority of
I've had
women.
2 kids, I know. And the lack of sleep and everything else that goes with it. Yeah.
And that's all of that together, and that's, some don't have as much of a dramatic change, but we see in case studies you can age up to a year post birth,
Mm-hmm.
and it takes a year or two for you to recover, and
Mm-hmm.
that's hormones, probably sleep, so many different things which are impacting it. So we say at that
Mm-hmm.
point, probably don't test and don't worry, unless you're very curious, so you're biohacker, you want this information. But it's your body trying to get used to, first go back to the shape it was, and then also get used to all the changes. But then a
Mm-hmm.
couple years post, if all of that is still a problem, then yes, maybe there should be some type of intervention that would help you. Microbiome is one big area of research. So we're looking at different interventions that improve the gut microbiome, because it's a
Mm-hmm.
very symbiotic relationship. So we know that if you, and we know this from clinical trials, which were fecal microbiome transplants. So it's not
Mm-hmm.
something we recommend to consumers, but you can just increase the diversity of plants in your diet and
Mm-hmm.
improve your gut. That's like a general rule. If you eat 30 different plants a week, and we see even in individual case studies, they've reduced quite significantly if
Mm-hmm.
they include more plants, particularly if they're local, because then the plant, they've been in local soil, so if you're informing your immune system about your environment, and informing immune system doesn't create inflammation. So if you improve the immune system in your gut, you also improve your immune system in the blood and your aging and longevity, which is very simple. It's something that each of us can do, and it doesn't cost us anything.